Welcome to the Encourager Podcast. I'm Rebekah Scott. I own Rebekah Scott Designs, where I am the designer and the CEO. I believe that if you desire an active, impactful role in your children's lives while simultaneously wanting to provide an income for your family, then being a mompreneur is exactly what you need to work at home. The Encourager Podcast is my way of inspiring and motivating you with insightful knowledge, tips, and advice from myself and other successful working women who put their families first. So let's take action and encourage one another. So I wrote a book. Say what? Yes, I did. It's called Equipped to Execute, guiding moms to joyfully impact their families and business. You know when you listen to a podcast and you think, goodness, I wish I could write that down, or I wish I could refer back to that in written form? Well, that's why I wrote it. I needed to answer the question, how do you do it for you and for myself? So this labor, and I do mean labor of love, will be available for pre-orders for our book launch team. Visit theencouragerbook.com for details on the incentives, which include signed books, speaking gigs, a full day to brainstorm your business with me, and awesome Rebekah Scott Designs product to go with. The book includes chapters about how to ward off fear, how to set goals, how to make key decisions, and how to execute your dreams while raising your family, and loads of stories of my own journey with business and a growing family. So hop on, pledge what your heart screams for you to do, and pre-order yours today. We got this, Encouragers. Hello, Encouragers. Today, we're going to talk about a really important subject, and that is burnout. It is so easy to have this happen in the beginning stages of a business, even in the middle, and even when you're thriving and have wealth. Building a business and raising a family is difficult. There's no other way around it. Now, I provide strategies that will make it easier for you and help you avoid some of the burnout that we're going to talk about. But it is hard work. You have to be super disciplined, super motivated, all of those things. And we do have superwoman capes tucked in every single day. I realize this. But I also wanted to talk about how to avoid burnout because it naturally happens. And just so you don't think that I'm superhuman, burnout happens. And it's definitely happened to me. And a lot of why I started this podcast and wrote my book, Equipped to Execute, is because I was trying to avoid so many burnouts. And so I started coming up with these systems that you've been hearing here on the podcast. So some of the biggest things that I do to narrow down burnout is, this is a little thing, but I print off a calendar from timeanddate.com. And the reason I mention it is because it's really small. It just prints off on printer paper, okay? I don't get one of those big, massive calendars. And if that's your thing, fine. But the reason why I keep my calendar so small is because it's easier to write things on it. And then I know if they're filling up, the day is getting too busy. And that may sound so silly, but I know that if everything that I have planned for the day can't fit on that tiny little box, then the kids are going to be burned out and I'm going to be burned out. So I do have to abbreviate, obviously, because there's big things, but I have little tiny stickers to indicate sports events. So like today I have a little tiny soccer sticker and I have a little tiny microphone. I'm going to be recording podcasts today, and I have a Facebook Live event at 5, and that's enough. That's a pretty full box. So then that's just an indicator to myself. Someone asked me for a meeting on tomorrow, and I already have 3 bullet points for tomorrow. And I knew, nope, I am not having that meeting because it will be burnout, not just for me, but for the kids. And you can sense it coming with your kids sometimes earlier than you can sense it coming with ourselves. We're more attuned to their burnouts than our own. So that's just one little tiny side trick I use, is just the tiny calendar, or maybe not tiny, but a medium-sized calendar instead of those big ones, because all we want to do is fill in the blank, especially if you're someone like me where it's like, ooh, it's just so fun to fill in a blank piece of paper. So I keep it small. The other thing I do to avoid burnout is that I also time everything. And you know that I preach about this all the time, but by timing everything, I get less overwhelmed and less burnt out at what I think will be a crazy night. So if the house is just crazy and it's not tidy and everything is out of place, I remind myself, because I've timed us enough times, that it's really only 20 minutes to get the majority of it picked up before I feel relief. So 20 minutes when I look around, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so much. And Nick is in the field right now because it's spring planting and I'm starting to get stressed out. I go, okay, it's only 20 minutes. I can make it through 20 minutes and the kids can help me or the nanny can help me or whatever it is, then I'm less likely to get burned out about things when you time them. So time how long it takes to do bedtime routine. And believe me, this is the one thing that probably burns out moms the most, depending on the stage in life with your child. So time that and try to keep it under an hour. And sometimes that's just not possible because, molars are coming in, potty train is coming, they're adjusting to a new method, whatever it is. I realize that bedtime might last longer, but try to time it so you have an idea and you're less like, okay, we already started brushing our teeth, usually within about 45 minutes. Everybody's down. I can have my cup of tea and do my thing. So try to remind yourself of that. That's why I encourage timing everything because you can have a better perspective on, I got to do the dishes tonight. Oh, but the dishes really only take me 20 minutes and I could listen to that other podcast if there is one, or whatever it might be. You can remind yourself to have peace that, have a really good pairing for that 20 minutes of washing the dishes or folding the clothes or whatever it is. Time it so you know how long it takes and you're less overwhelmed with the thought of the chore. The other thing I do to avoid burnout is make sure that you really have a me system. Now, I recorded a whole podcast on this called the me system, but if your me system is really solid, you're less likely to burn out if you trust it and you use it. Meaning, my me system usually happens in the morning. I exercise, I listen to a podcast while I shower and get ready. I have my Bible time. I talk to God and my 2 chairs time. I'm really meeting a lot of my roles and a lot of myself of the needs that I need. And I know that when I'm burning out, it's because I'm not doing that early morning routine or I'm not blocking in enough time for myself. This is not ways to make you feel guilty. That's the last thing we need right now is to feel guilty about one more thing we're trying to fulfill. This is just a way to encourage you that you've got to prioritize yourself first or everyone gets the bum end of the stick, so to say. So make sure that you're spending some time, even if you're not exercising it super early in the morning or whatever it is, and your thing is walking, prioritize that for when it will work. If it's at 5 p.m., great. If it's at 5 a.m., great. But prioritize some things that are your things. And another thing for the burnout, and I just really think this helps a lot, is if you rise before your kids do. If you hear anything else about the burnout, rising before they do gives you just a couple of minutes to really think about your day. You don't even have to write anything during this time. You can just pour the cup of coffee and sip it. But if you have that time to just really center yourself before you head to your crazy, awesome circus, it will help you with the burnout at the end of the day because you filled yourself up first. And then also remember when I talked about in the me system, have your thing, because I find that people in my life that are close to me kind of know when I'm on the verge of burnout. I find myself complaining more or being short-tempered with the kiddos and I can feel it coming. And so because people in my life know what I love, they will bring me things to help me avoid the burnout so that they know I love chai tea. So my executive assistant knows that and she'll bring me out a chai tea and I'm like, how did you know? And she just probably sensed it in my email responses or the background of our phone conversations that it's getting a little stressed out for Rebekah. I'm going to bring her one of her treats. So who in your life knows what your treats are? And they don't have to be food related. Maybe it's a bubble bath. My husband knows to start the tea kettle. Like if he can sense that I'm starting to stress out, I can hear the tea kettle whistling and I know he snuck in the house and started the tea kettle, or he called Gus, our 10-year-old, and told him to start it. And obviously mine are food and drink related, but it's also a good run. And if I'm burnt out, Nick will say, put your running shoes on and go for a run. I'll watch the kids. So make known to your friends and family and your neighbors, what is your thing? They desire to please you just like you desire to please them. So speak about it. Speak it out loud so that people know it and can surprise you with whatever it is to help you avoid that burnout. Then the other tip that I would say is make sure you narrow down what is the what I must do factor in order to relax. So if you feel like you're starting to get really stressed, what must be done in the house for you to relax a little bit, but not everything? Okay, so look through your folder. Like mine isn't a folder for the day. And I look at it. And if by 10:30, the pile is actually getting bigger, not narrower, I just say, okay, enough. And I narrow it down to just 3 things. And the rest of it, I file in the day later or even 2 days later. Like what must be done today? And that's the only thing that I'm going to prioritize. Otherwise, I'm trying to do too much at once and I'm going down the path of burnout. So ask yourself, what are the things that I must do today? And sometimes that's also like looking at the chores, like, okay, the laundry must be done today. I'm going to get that done. But the vacuuming that I wanted to do, forget it. That's going to happen tomorrow. Or I need to have the tables cleared off. That's my one thing, but the dishes are going to sit in the sink. Like, just decide what must be done for you to relax a little bit so that you don't feel overwhelmed by thinking you have to do everything. And then the fourth thing I would recommend is that you take advantage when others are saying, let me know what I can do to help. Because they'll start reading it, especially if you have close girlfriends and moms and sisters and husbands and even children. They'll start sensing when you're starting to get on burnout or you're stressed out, and they will say, hey, let me know how I can help. Well, take them up on that. Don't be so proud that you can't ask for help. Ask your mother-in-law who keeps saying, let me know what I can do to help. Mine loves laundry for whatever reason. She loves weeding my garden. And I just couldn't give that up for the longest time. And then I kept thinking, I think that is God's way of saying, I have offered you help in so many different forms, even in the form of your mother-in-law, and you keep denying it. Well, who am I to do that? If he is giving that to me, then I should take advantage of that. So do that. When your husband says, what can I do to help? Maybe it is just running a bath, or maybe it is you need to go to town by yourself. Like for me, it would be, because we live in the middle of nowhere, going out and just chilling, whether it's on a gravel road or in Target, like get away and chill. But take advantage when people are saying, how can I help? And that may even be your neighbors, that may be church members, that may be in-laws, whatever it is. Listen to when people are saying, how can I help? And you could even say, could you please make a casserole for Thursday night? I do not know how I'm going to feed my family this week. So if I had one night where I could feed them supper, that would be great. And they love to do that. Just like you love to do that for another mommy. Take advantage when people are offering you help. So here are just the ideas that I have for avoiding the burnout. And another thing that my husband and I have done that we learned from my husband's aunt, Janelle, is that she says they have a code word that she uses with her husband to indicate things are getting a little hairy. So instead of saying, I'm super stressed out and the kids are driving me nuts while the kid is standing there pouring themselves milk, you could say, I just really feel itchy all over. And itchy is a code word for my husband to know, we are getting stressed out and starting to burn out. So rather than disappointing the child with telling Nick how I feel, it's not being dishonest, but it's also not letting them down. So I just use, find a code word with your husband. Or if the code word is, I need to go get a gallon of orange juice, which is not like the normal gallon of milk, then they know, okay, when I get home, I need to swoop in and rescue this awesome beauty. Whatever it is. So have some code words that you can use with your husband or even your mom or a friend where they're like, ooh, bail out. I need to go bail her out. And then she can use the word, he or she can use the word with you. And then you can be the one that rescues them. We're here to help each other. So again, my little tips for avoiding burnout would be to have a small calendar, because then when it's filled up, that little tiny box, you can't fit any more in. Time everything, because it's less overwhelming when you know how long it actually takes to unload the dishwasher or sweep the floors or whatever it might be. Have a me system and speak it loudly to others so that they can please you, and have some time by yourself to fill your tank up. You can't run on a cell phone charge at 35%, right? So get a 100% charge before you enter your circus. Narrow down the what I must do factor. So look through your folder of tasks for the day, narrow it down to 3, just 3 that you must do. Look at your house chores, narrow down to just 2 that you must do before you're able to relax. And then also take advantage of when others are asking you for help so that you can offer it to them later, but don't be afraid to use their helpline. And then have a code word with your loved ones so everybody knows when you're starting to get burned out and stressed out. And then you can let them use the code as well. So that's what I do in order to avoid burnout. I hope these have been helpful. And let me know what your code words are. This could be really fun. We got this, encouragers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show so that the latest episode will always be conveniently available on your device. You can also find the show notes on my website at shoprsd.com. That's shop with R as in Rebekah, S as in Scott, and D as in designs.com. The Encourager Podcast tab is at the bottom of my website, which holds some great resources like my recommended book page, how to rate and review my podcast, and reflection guides that correspond with each episode. Each review and rating is so valuable to us. I sincerely hope you feel encouraged and empowered to tackle anything that comes your way this week. Remember to be grateful, humble, and kind. Then joy will come ushering in. Until next time on The Encourager.